You're passionate about teaching people of all ages how to sew. You spend more time in your sewing studio than in your actual home. You're a whiz at reassuring your students, before the tears start, that a size 18 sewing pattern is basically the same as size 6 anywhere else. You can't remember the last time you actually sewed something for yourself. If you've ever uttered the phrase, "No, I will not hem your pants," you are definitely a sewing boss.
I run the Stitchery. It's a fabric shop and a sewing studio in Port Moody, which is in the Vancouver area in BC, Canada, on the west coast.
Okay.
And yeah, we're here to encourage and equip creativity in other people.
Okay.
And be a community maker space and a teaching space.
Really?
Vancouver is multiple cities all joined in one big blob, one big sprawl. We're one of those cities. We're Port Moody itself is only about 30,000 people, but it's part of the 2 million of the greater Vancouver urban sprawl. So like I said, Port Moody is a small city, but it has a main street and it has a newer area, and this Moody Center is the heritage part, as old as it gets in North America. The last spike of the Great Pacific Railroad was here in 1870 something, testing my history. So there's a lot of heritage homes and there's a lot of creativity, and Port Moody's motto is the city of the arts, and they're really trying to develop a hub right here. We're a block away from the Arts Center. In this block, we've got Pinball Alley Vintage Store. We've got an artisan shop called Willow and Wallflower, and we've got around my house consignment and home decor and nice stuff. So I appreciate the community and the creativity in this area. It's a little destination of creative boutique places.
Do you find that the rent is reasonable because it's kind of considered an arts district, or I mean, versus maybe having your studio in something that's not a storefront? I think that can be a challenge maybe when you have a store versus just a studio. What's your experience?
It's still retail rent.
Yeah.
And it's Vancouver. I don't think any land is so expensive here. I don't think anything can be considered reasonable.
Wow.
So, we're about 8 months in. We're not breaking even. We're nowhere near breaking even because it's bent over heads. But we're heading in the right direction. And I think it's worth it to be here in the center where people can find us. People come in and they're so excited that there's a fabric shop and there's a place they can learn to sew in this community, because they haven't had that for so long.
And do you feel like people will stumble upon your business looking, they're just kind of happen to be in the neighborhood and they're walking around and then they see you, or do people find you sort of online first and then come down and check out your space? Or is it both?
It's been both. We're on the side street, but we have a sandwich board on the main street from the corner. And the next building over has midwives, chiropractors, dental offices, hair salons. So a lot of people, they park outside my store to go to those appointments. And then they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." And they pop in and they find us, so to speak, because they were going to the hairdressers or whatever. So it's a good location.
Good. And you obviously have things for sale that kind of go along with the classes that you teach, but would you find that more of your business is retail sales, fabric and supplies like that, or would you say it's more classes or a mixture of both, or what's the percentage, would you say?
The retail sales at the start were very low. Those are taking time to build up, but I anticipate that they're going to support the classes. Essentially, they're going to bring in the bulk of the money to pay for the space, because we're in the middle of like the busiest center in Canada almost. Like people are they're entertained to death almost, right? There's so many things you can be doing, so it's hard to fill classes. So our classes will stay small, but that makes for a better student experience.
Totally.
But it means that I need to be selling the fabrics, I need to be a dealer for sewing machines. I need to find other ways of bringing in the income to support that.
Yeah. Did you find that? So you said you've been in business about 8 months. Did you find, like, starting out in this sort of venture, I would think that it would be a larger, expenditure up front to be able to get all the inventory, to be able to carry the sewing machines. What did you sort of do in order to plan for that? I mean, without getting into specific finances, but I mean, I look at that and go, wow, that's a huge spend, before you even started opened your doors. So how did you do that?
We had some money in savings, and it's a joint agreement with my husband. It's not, I'm not just going to take all our savings and spend them without his backing, and having his support has been essential. So yes, we've invested a big amount in here that will take a long time to see a return on, because you're right, none of this stuff is on consignment, right? No. It's all wholesale. It's all buy it up front and hope it sells.
Right.
And just setting up the space. We were lucky we didn't have to do a lot of renos. The space, the lighting was good, the space was good, the floor was good. We didn't have to do very much. So that helped.
Good.
Yeah, I have run classes, various art classes, and taught different things for, I don't know, on and off during the last 20 years with in between doing other things. So I kind of knew that the classes are tricky to fill, but I had already a little bit of a community following and knew sort of pockets and ways of reaching out to people. So I kind of went with that.
So your background, I read a little bit from your website, your background is in costume design, is that correct? Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I ran away to university when I was 18 and I studied fashion design. And then I discovered historical costume through that and went and did a bachelor's degree in costume design, which really doesn't equip you for anything but being a costume designer. So I did that for about 10 or 12 years, just as a contractor. Circus, opera, theater, whatever, job to job sort of thing. And it's a fantastic industry to work in, and it trains you to be creative and think creative and learn lots of different ways of sewing and putting things together and working with fabric and other materials. So give me I've got a good basis for everything that I'm teaching here.
And so you're definitely more of like a garment sewing studio, maybe versus like a quilting studio. Would you say that?
I'm a dressmaker, so yeah. I've brought in contract teachers to teach things like quilting and embroidery, people that would focus more on those skills, and where I know a little bit but not enough to feel confident teaching.
Right.
So that I've sort of rounded it out, because there's a lot of quilting guilds here and people looking for fabric, and a lot of the really gorgeous fabrics out here they're quilting fabrics.
Would you say that your background in historical costumes, is that reflected in any of the classes that you do? Do you offer any classes? And
I haven't yet. I've talked a little bit. I'm planning a corset making class.
Okay.
And I've done a few advanced pattern drafting classes, and we were going to do another sort of part 3 where we would work through a Victorian bodice or something like that, to understand the mechanics of pattern drafting better, because they didn't have things like stretch fabrics, right? They didn't have the machines, and so their construction methods are a lot more detailed. And so you learn a lot more about clothing and how clothing works with the body by looking at something like that.
I'm always curious about studios and how their more advanced classes, how the enrollment is compared to, like more beginner classes. Do you find that people are sort of starting with you and continuing through to more intermediate and advanced classes, or do you have a lot of beginners? Like, what's that sort of like?
Definitely more beginners. There's, refreshers, I call them. I sewed in high school. Right. I don't remember. So they come in for our intro classes. So there's a lot more in that range, and we don't think we've been around long enough for people to progress from beginner to advanced. But I have a small group of advanced students who found us and realized that I had the skills to teach more advanced techniques. And so I will generally actually talk to them about what they want to learn.
Yeah.
Those classes, but those classes will be small. They'll be 1 to 3 people.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I get to do the fun things that challenge me.
Yeah.
And we've done like a master class in a tailored jacket and things like that. Just,
Wow.
just to get into the really tough stuff.
So, wow, 8 months. I'm really impressed that that's as long as you've been in business. It definitely doesn't come across as like that, you know, on your online presence. It definitely looks like you've been in business a lot longer than that. So I noticed you do have both kids and adult students. What would you say the ratio is between those two demographics?
Definitely more adults.
Yeah.
We haven't hit our stride with the kids classes yet.
Mm-hmm.
But like one of my advanced students is a mom who came in for her kids. And so her kids have taken a couple of classes, but she comes in and she takes the advanced classes, and or she comes for drop-ins to have me help her fit her coat or whatever that she's working on, things like that.
Okay.
But most of our kids classes haven't run. We tried in January to start up the after-school classes.
Mm-hmm.
From talking to some other sewing studios around the greater Vancouver area, they were like, oh, after school classes, you need to do them. Mine are full. I have wait lists. I want to send people to you, get them started. We started them, we got not a single registration. Like, okay, well, we're trying again in September. We'll try marketing different, slightly different marketing campaign, and we'll see. We've got maybe 3 students signed up for summer camp.
Okay.
And yet 1 block away at the art center, their summer camps are full with the wait list. So it's kind of like, okay, working really hard, getting marketing advice, and just if we just get out there to more people.
Well, that was gonna be my next question. What's been the marketing thing you found has really worked well for you?
The more money you spend, the more the more attention you get. I mean,
Do you find that?
Like if I
as far as advertising?
Well, I guess it depends. Like my sister's a marketing executive, so she gives me some advice. So she's like, your conversion rate is going to be what it is. You're probably not going to increase it very much. So you just need to have more people in your pool of people.
Right.
You're going to be the same. The more people you have, the more people you're coming in.
Right.
So we did a Facebook marketing campaign coming up to Christmas and spent a few hundred and got, really boosted our likes on Facebook, really boosted our awareness and got to a much broader community. But when I boost a post on Facebook for $20, it doesn't go very far.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the most successful ones, I did a 12 days of Christmas posts on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that sort of built up a little bit momentum as well, because people knew it was a 12 days, the hashtag was 12 days. And so people knew to expect it, and it generated momentum through the 12 posts. So I find the more intentional I am about sort of being clever almost with a campaign, seems to generate just a little bit more than sort of one-off things.
Mm-hmm.
We have, I think, a couple of Google AdWords campaigns running at the minute for just a few dollars a day, which, I mean, it adds up, but it's a small enough to be manageable. And that has increased the hits on our website a lot. It's hard to tell how many of those are converting to actual paying customers, but it has definitely increased traffic a lot.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit sort of about how your space is set up? Do you have, how much space is in the studio?
I think we have somewhere between 800 and 900 square feet.
Oh, wow, it's big.
But we have like a washroom in the back, and some of that is storage space in the back. So like my front door is over there. Behind me is pretty much my retail space.
Uh-huh.
Right here on my, I've got sort of, what is that? It's 5 by 10 feet of drafting table.
Uh-huh.
Of our studio, we gather around there for classes. And in Vancouver, where, you know, you can buy 500 square feet for $500,000, it's people want to come in and use a big table, right? And then at this end, just the other side of the camera is our sewing machines and our
Okay.
and that's the thing. We've got a few machines set up, and we have a embroidery machine in the back as well.
I think you're trying to do this, obviously, but make it seem very inviting, your studio, you know, where, you know, everybody's welcome, come on in, we'll have some tea, we'll do some sewing, we'll chat. And that really came across in your website. It felt very warm and very inviting. So yeah, I was like, oh wow, that's really great. Like it kind of made me want to go, like, I wish I could just go and hang out and sew, because I mean, you know, I never get to just do that, you know, as a business owner, we're never really doing that. So if you can make that happen in your studio, and even if it's still, you know, you're working obviously, but that's very cool. And I liked that a lot. So
Thank you. I'm glad it comes across there. That's the biggest feedback we get from people who walk into the space. Like,
oh, good.
Inviting. Like,
Yeah.
I feel so welcome. I feel so relaxed. Like, they come in, especially if they're coming, an adult coming from a beginner's class feels nervous. As adults, we're not used to being beginners. Like, kids are fine. Adults, we're used to knowing what we're doing. So, like, we tend to feel a little nervous coming in, a little cautious, not sure what this is going to be like. Am I going to make a mistake? And, you know, so they come in feeling nervous, but very quickly they relax in this space. And I don't know, part of it's maybe the tea. We have tea and we chat at the start of a class. And I've tried to allow some negative space in our decor, and just, you know, thinking through things like that and how people will feel in this space is important.
Yeah, it is. I like that you mentioned negative space. I've literally been in my studio today, pulling things out, getting rid of, you know, like posting things on Craigslist. Come pick this up. I've got quilting magazines. 2 of the girls are up there like, Megan, you need to let those go. These quilting magazines, you've never looked at them. Let them go. I'm like, okay, I can do it. So yeah, I mean, sewing just requires a lot of stuff. So I think it's great that you've thought about having the negative space, because it just makes your head feel better to just not have stuff everywhere. So
it's easier. It gets harder as it goes on, because you fill up with more stuff. Like I'm running out of retail space for the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You know, not the fabric bolts, but like the needle minders and the kit and the different types of threads. Like, they all need surfaces. It's like, well, you don't want to cover every surface. Right?
No, it's hard. What's been one of the challenges in having your business, you know, for the last 8 months? Something that maybe you didn't expect, or something that you found challenging in having your business and starting your business? What do you think, I guess, the biggest challenge?
I really didn't think about the retail side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my dream, and this is a realization of a 20-year dream of a community artist maker space where people just get together and like make stuff, and it feels good, and it feels good to use your hands, and it feels good to work, you know, with tactile stuff and understand one another and talk about what it means to be creative and stuff. So that was easy. Right. Yeah. And that, you know, that comes across in my website and stuff, but I really didn't think that, well, there's a whole lot involved in being a retail store. Like, and I'm having growing pains with my systems, my payment processing systems and my inventory management systems, because it starts to get complicated when you've got maybe like 500 items. Yeah. Growing, and how much percentage am I paying to process this type of payment? Is there a better way of doing it? Monthly fees versus per transaction fees. And I'm like, wow, that's been a very steep learning curve, and I didn't think about it at all before we opened.
Yeah. And is that something that you teach all of your instructors and employees, or do you sort of, like, if you have another instructor there, teaching a class, you have someone minding your retail part of the store. Is that correct? Or
I've just had me. And
yeah.
so far when my other instructors have been in, I've been here. Just
Yeah.
like
Okay.
they needed something, or, you know, occasionally we trip the fuse with the irons or something, you know. I've been around and I haven't taken a break, but I'm starting to get to that point where I need to think,
Yeah.
you know, what does that look like? And I can't really afford to pay staff, but at the same time, if my instructor's here teaching a class, I'm now confident enough in their abilities, their comfort with the space, that I could step out for a couple hours.
Right. Because they're not necessarily your employee. They're just people who are really good at what they do, and you've hired them to teach a class or a couple of classes. Is that right?
Yeah, our contract is pretty much a 50-50 contract.
Mm-hmm.
So 50% your responsibility and 50% mine to bring people in, and then also a split the profits after any costs for running the class.
Okay.
Process.
Yeah. But I can see why you wouldn't want to just leave them to be, you know, manning the store while they're teaching the class, which leaves you there all the time that the store is open.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm teaching and someone comes in, occasionally you have to step away from the class and process a sale or help someone. Right. And I've sort of been able to handle that well enough, but just sort of find the lull in the class where I can step away or whatever. Right. It hasn't been too much of an issue, but I've started preparing I guess a staff training. As I've been going along, just thinking about what are the things that I would need to teach someone if I was to step away and leave them here.
Right. Okay.
Because I've been in enough jobs as a contractor. You have a lot of part-time jobs. You just So I've been in enough jobs to know you need good training, and you want to cover all the details. And you want
that's very smart that you've started that. And last question, where do you see yourself in a year from now? Where would you like to be sort of in a year from now?
Good question. Earning a little bit of an income.
You will.
I mean, the other goals, I've tried to write down goals, but the other goals, we're meeting them. The community goals, the creativity goals, I keep ticking them off the list. Like, community is happening here. People are bringing other people that they know. We host sort of textile art shows on the walls, and so I contact my teachers or my friends that make textile art and say, hey, how about we do an exhibition on this theme? And, you know, we're part of the art walk in a couple of weeks as well with our hand stitched exhibition at the minute. So I'd love to just see more of that. More creativity, more community, and a little bit more income.
Being profitable. You'll get there. Yeah, it's like the first year, it's kind of enjoy just being able to write off a bunch of stuff and figure things out, and then the second year make some profit. So
well, it's like get to the point that we're sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not expecting to make a huge amount of money here, but if we can't be spending money every month to keep it going.
Right. No.
So if it can sustain itself, then I'm happy, because then I just get to pour myself into building community and teaching people and facilitating stuff and collaborating with other businesses and that sort of thing.
Fantastic. It sounds like the dream job.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and for being so candid about, your business, because I think that's always the question. It's like, how do people do it? And so I love that I can chat with people who are very, that are fairly new at it and see where they're at and check in. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.